In Willow Creek, everyone knew each other's names. Kids played outside until the streetlights came on, and doors were rarely locked. It was the kind of place where nothing bad ever happened, until one night it did. The Harpers were just your average family, living in a cozy house with a big backyard. That Thursday night, they were doing the usual after-dinner routine. Kids goofing around, parents cleaning up. Out of nowhere, a loud bang shook the house. The back door had been kicked in with such force it flew off its hinges. Before they could even process what was happening, this shadowy figure was stomping through their home. Mr. Harper, a big guy who wasn't easily scared, went to face the intruder. But the look in the guy's eyes, it was like he was looking at a ghost. The intruder just laughed, a creepy, skin-crawling laugh that echoed off the walls. Mrs. Harper, quick thinking as always, grabbed the kids and bolted upstairs. They locked themselves in the bedroom, hearts pounding like drums. Downstairs, it sounded like a tornado was ripping through their house. Glass breaking, furniture being thrown around. It was chaos. The cops were on their way, sirens in the distance, but it felt like an eternity. Then just as quickly as he'd come, the intruder was gone. He didn't take anything, didn't hurt anyone. He just left a mess and a family that couldn't shake off the fear. After that night, things changed in Willow Creek. People double-checked their locks, eyed strangers with suspicion. The Harpers tried to move on, but some nights, they'd wake up to the slightest sound, hearts racing, wondering if he'd come back. It was a regular Thursday evening in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where everyone knows each other and nothing much ever happens. That's what Sarah thought as she settled in for the night, her parents away on a weekend trip. She was enjoying the peace, curled up with a book, the only sounds the gentle ticking of the living room clock and the occasional car passing by. Around midnight, Sarah decided to call it a night. She checked the locks on the doors and windows, a habit ingrained by her cautious parents, and turned off the lights. Her dog, Max, a loyal golden retriever, followed her upstairs, his nails clicking softly on the wooden steps. She had just drifted off to sleep when Max's low growl woke her. Disoriented, she listened closely, and her heart skipped a beat when she heard it. A faint but persistent knocking on the front door. Who could it be at this hour, she thought. Max's growling intensified as the knocking continued. Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. Could it be a neighbor in trouble, or something more sinister? She remembered her parents' advice. Don't open the door for strangers, especially at night. Gathering her courage, she peeked out the bedroom window. The street was empty, the other houses dark and silent. The knocking grew louder, more desperate. Sarah's pulse pounded in her ears. She grabbed her phone, ready to call 911, but hesitated. What if it's nothing? I'll look so foolish, she worried. Then silence. The knocking stopped. Max calmed down, and Sarah's fear began to ebb away. See, it was probably just some kids playing a prank, she reassured herself. But as she settled back into bed, a chilling realization struck her. The knocking had been at a rhythm, a pattern, not random at all. She didn't sleep a wink that night, jumping at every sound. Morning light brought relief, but also the nerve to investigate. She stepped outside, and there, on the front door, were scratches, marks that no human could make, too high up to be from an animal. Sarah never found out who or what was at her door that night. Neighbors reported nothing unusual. and there were no signs of attempted break-in. But sometimes, late at night, she still hears that same eerie knocking and wonders if it will ever come back to finish what it started. It was a quiet night in a sleepy neighborhood where the most action you'd usually see was a raccoon rummaging through the trash. But this night was different. Sarah, a single mom, had just put her little boy Tommy to bed after reading his favorite bedtime story. She double-checked the locks on the doors and windows, a habit she had formed ever since moving into her own place. With Tommy asleep, Sarah settled onto the couch with a cup of tea and her latest mystery novel. The only sounds were the faint whispers of the wind and the occasional creak of the house settling. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. As the clock ticked past midnight, Sarah's eyes grew heavy and the book slipped from her hands. The house was silent, save for the steady rhythm of her breathing. That's when it happened. The sound of a lock clicking, so soft it could have been mistaken for her imagination. But then, the unmistakable creak of the back door hinge followed, and Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She wasn't alone. Adrenaline surged through her veins as she tiptoed to Tommy's room. He was still sound asleep, unaware of the danger lurking in the shadows. Sarah's mind raced. Who could it be? A burglar? She had to protect Tommy no matter what. Grabbing her phone, she dialed 911, but realized with horror that the call wouldn't go through. The line was dead. Her mobile phone was her only hope, but it was charging in the kitchen, right where the intruder had entered. With no time to waste, Sarah made a decision. She scooped Tommy into her arms and slipped into the closet, covering his mouth gently to keep him quiet. They huddled together in the dark, listening as heavy footsteps moved through the house. The intruder wasn't in a hurry. They took their time, rummaging through drawers, the sound of things being tossed around growing louder as they neared the bedroom. Sarah held Tommy tighter, whispering promises of safety, praying they wouldn't be found. Minutes felt like hours as the intruder finally reached the bedroom. The closet door was so close, Sarah could almost feel the stranger's breath. But then, as quickly as they had come, the footsteps retreated. The back door creaked open once more, and the night reclaimed its silence. It was over. When the police arrived, they found the back door ajar and Sarah's belongings scattered. It was a close call, a reminder of how fragile safety can be. But Sarah and Tommy were unharmed, and that was all that mattered. From that night on, Sarah made sure to add extra security to her home. And though the intruder was never caught, she never felt helpless again. She had faced her fear and protected her son, and nothing could take that away from her.